Hi, everybody. This is Carol Sherwood, and welcome to the Stephen Avery, The Devil is in the Details podcast. Episode 2, Tom Sowinski poses a problem. I want to go over a couple of things with you because this has a little bit of bearing on the RAV2 theory, as well as Teresa Halbach leaving or not leaving the property. And Tom Sowinski, the newest witness that came forward and shared with Kathleen Zellner that he saw two men who he has now identified as Bobby Dassey and some unknown gentleman pushing a dark colored small SUV onto the salvage property the morning of, I believe he said it's November 5th. I think at first there was some confusion whether it was the 4th or the 5th, the wee hours of the morning, and it really doesn't matter because it's before the car was found, okay? So Tom Sowinski has come forward. He's told that to Kathleen Zellner. That's in her motion that she will be filing to ask for an evidentiary hearing because now there is an eyewitness that sees Bobby Dassey pushing what appears to be a RAV4 on the Avery salvage. Now, if you consider this case and what all has taken place, the odds of that being some random RAV4 being pushed on Avery salvage and it not being Teresa's, then that would be a little odd. So that poses a bit of a problem. But there's a recording, and that's what comes in really handy in this affidavit from Thomas Sowinski. He's the delivery paper guy. He's making his route that morning, and he drives on to Avery property. We don't know what time they make the route. I think paper people usually make it around 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, they've got a pretty long route, so it's hours. It takes them a few hours to get it all done. But so he's there, and he passes these two guys pushing this car, goes down, delivers his paper, and he's coming back out of Avery Road. That's to lead him back up onto the highway that's in front of the property so he can exit and go on down to his route. So he comes face to face, car to face, with a shirtless young man who he has later identified to be Bobby Dassey. So let's kind of take a look at the Tom Sowinski testimony in his affidavit. He says he sees these two men pushing this vehicle. He saw one that was shirtless, a younger man, physically well fit, and then the other one looked like a bit of an older man with some facial hair, and that person ducked when the car lights from his car shines on them and he sees them. So obviously the other guy was a little bit smarter because he ducked and didn't want to be identified. So, but this other guy, the shirtless wonder, didn't duck. As a matter of fact, Tom Sowinski says he stepped out kind of in front of him, like maybe he was going to try to stop him or something. And Sowinski says he swerves over kind of in the ditch area and he says, "Paper boy, gotta go." So he takes off and he goes on his route. He said he was scared, and that's understandable. He doesn't know what's going on. He probably couldn't even care less. He has no idea how this relates to anything at that moment. He goes on about his business. And then the car is found, blah, blah, blah. We all know that story. Fast forward to the next day, Sunday. Tom Sowinski also states he was watching the news on Sunday evening and he sees the information about Teresa Halbach missing and her vehicle, and that they're doing a search, okay, and that they found the vehicle. He then places a phone call. Stop right there. Phone records don't lie, okay? When I first started researching this case. I spent 3 months, 3 full months, almost daily, looking at nothing but phone calls from multiple sources and studying the phone calls, studying the patterns, and finding out who Teresa talked with and who she talked with repeatedly, all kinds of things. Phone records don't lie, and that will be a key in this case, okay? Because there are some gold nuggets in those phone records of Teresa Halbach's. But back to Sowinski. Sowinski places a call Sunday evening, sometime after the news. And the dispatcher answers the call, and he says something to the effect of, I have some information. I don't know if it's valuable or not, but it may be about the missing girl in Hilbert. Well, as far as we know, there's only one missing girl in Hilbert at that moment, and that's Teresa Halbach. So the dispatcher, operator, however you want to call it, says, okay, the guy in charge for this evening is Sergeant Singlaub, Senglaub, Sergeant Singlaub. So she says, let me transfer you to Sergeant Singlaub and you can tell him your information. And the guy says, okay. All of that's on a recording that's already known. It's already been released. It was gathered by a FOIA request. Oops, accidentally, because the new person that was in records at Manitowoc County wasn't supposed to release that, but they did. And thank God they did, because now there's a call. There were gobs of people who probably called in with tips saying they saw Teresa here, they saw the RAV here, all kinds of tips. But Tom Sowinski calls in, and that call is recorded, the first part of it, to that dispatcher. So she says, let me transfer you to Sergeant Singlaub, and he's like, okay. So she transfers the call, and at that point on the recording, it's kind of dead silence. You don't really hear anything. And then, of course, the second half of that call conveniently has now disappeared. But here's the deal. Phone records don't lie. On Tom Sowinski's phone records, and you can rest assured that Kathleen Zellner has this, Tom Sowinski's phone records are going to show the time he made that phone call, who he made the phone call to, the police station he made the phone call to, the length of time that we know that he was on the phone with the dispatcher. You can hear the phone call and you can run it for however many seconds that runs. And then Sowinski's phone records are going to show more minutes on that phone call that he got transferred to Singlaub. So everybody's like, well, there's no proof that he talked to Singlaub. Yes, there is. There's proof that he called and talked for X number of minutes to someone, telling them something at that police station, and phone records don't lie. It's not like he called for 30 seconds and she said, oh, let me transfer you, click, and hangs up on him accidentally. She transferred him. He remembers what he told Sergeant Singlaub, and guess what? Sergeant Singlaub knows what this man told him. So where is he in all of this not coming forward and saying, I remember that call? And you can say, well, Carol, there's hundreds of people that have called in with all kinds of tips. They can't possibly remember all of them. No, they can't. But let me tell you something. If my butt was on the hot seat and I know somebody called in, I'd be racking my brain to try to figure out if I heard that phone call or not. But the fact is, phone records don't lie. There will be a phone call from Tom Sowinski to Manitowoc County, and they transferred him to Singlaub, and he had that conversation with Singlaub. Even though that half of it is gone, those minutes don't disappear off of those phone records. So instead of that little 30, 45 seconds, whatever it was that he talked to the dispatcher or the operator, there is now more minutes added to that where he was transferred and he had a conversation. So here's what I ask. Doesn't it seem a little strange that you've got Sowinski calling in? He talks about calling in and giving his story about seeing the two men pushing a vehicle to this officer. And here's what I find kind of interesting. Have anybody else noticed besides me that Bobby Dassey has never, not that I'm aware of, ever come out and said, I wasn't pushing a vehicle on Avery Salvage Yard at that time at all? We have Mike O saying he doesn't remember helping Bobby push a car ever in his whole life. He doesn't remember whether he did or not. I'm like, oh, that's a whole nother story. But Bobby Dassey's lawyer, if he's got one, he's never come up and said, nope, that's not my client. I mean, what are they leaving Bobby out there to hang dry himself? He's never come forward and said, that wasn't me pushing that car, pushing any car. I wasn't on the property that night. He could have easily have come forward and said, man, I was out partying that night and got home late and my car ran out of gas and I called my buddy and he helped me push it back on the property. Dang, that would have been an easy get out of. Nothing. Zippo. Nothing. Nothing's been said. So we're left to believe Thomas Sowinski. He really doesn't have any skin in the game. So he's telling what he saw. He knows he talked to an officer. The minutes on his phone bill are going to show that there was somewhat of a several-minute phone call while he's filling them in with this information. And Bobby's never come forward and said he wasn't pushing a car. Now, here's where I want you to roll forward in all of this case. They claim and presented Teresa Halbach never left that property. That her car, where it wound up in the southwest corner back there way across that property, was completely opposite from where Sowinski sees them pushing the car. So here's my question to you all. How'd that car get from here to here? And why was that car at the front of the property when the car, when Teresa was there, was in the property? She was up there where Bobby said he saw her, where Stephen met with her, taking pictures of the van. Her car was in the property at the location of the minivan that she was photographing. Which means you've got this location, then you've got this location, and then you've got this location. So what does this mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means that car left that property.